All right, so we're back. It's episode number 5 of FDT. We're sitting down with a bunch of fun people today. Have you guys subscribed yet? Because if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to this. Check out the YouTube videos. The YouTube videos are fun. You never know what's going to go on. So, Shelly, who do we got with us today?
And people are actually watching and listening to them.
They very much are. Yeah. I have the stats for the listening, and it's more than the other podcast I have. So, most of the time. So,
I mean,
they're popular episodes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I wasn't sure what to say to that.
No, it's good. No, it's a good thing.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, it's a good thing for everybody.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, FDT stands for Fort Dodge, a thoughtful exchange about the arts. So we are inviting people that are members of Fort Dodge Fine Arts, supporters of the arts in the community, and so it only made sense that we include Fort Dodge Senior High.
Absolutely.
In this podcasting venture of ours. So I thought it would be fun, although we don't have every area represented today for Fort Dodge Senior High, for sure. But we do have 3 key players for sure. So I'm going to let you guys go down the line and introduce yourself and say your position, role at Fort Dodge Senior High.
Well, I'm Deidra Miller-Clay, and I am one of the art teachers at Senior High.
And what art classes do you teach?
I have Art Studio, which is your foundations level art course, and then I teach art appreciation, drawing, painting, and sculpture.
Okay.
So, and independent studies. I have quite a few independent study students too.
Do you teach for Iowa Central also?
Yes, I do. I do.
What are you teaching out
I'm
there?
teaching online art appreciation for Iowa Central.
Okay.
Cool.
Gosh, sometimes I do know things. Okay, and next?
I am Matt Drees. I'm one of the choir directors at Fort Dodge Senior High. I direct a cappella choir and then our bass clef chorus, Fortis Chorum. I also have music appreciation and piano keyboarding throughout the year.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
So yeah, lots of fun music things at Senior High.
And how long have you been at Senior High?
This is my 13th year
Okay.
at Senior
Cool.
High. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
That's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time for anybody to do anything.
How long have you been at Senior High?
I think at Senior High, not as long. I think I'm on year 6 at
Okay.
Senior High, but teaching in general, 21 years.
Right.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I lose track of time. And last but not least,
Absolutely, yes. Hi, I'm Lindey Krug. I teach theater at the Senior High. I've got an intro to theater class, which is like basic theater performance foundation, theater performance 2. We teach technical theater and also theater and society, so like more of the literature side of theater. And I coach extracurricularly a fall play. I co-direct the musical here with Mr. Drees. And then I'm also head coach of our large group speech and drama program.
I was just going to say, make sure you get speech in there.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
as weird as this sounds, like a couple days ago, I was just thinking about man, there was a speech class at Humboldt, and I wish I would have taken it, and it was just kind of fun because it's really interesting how, because you go to speech competitions,
We
I'm
do.
assuming. So that's like such an odd concept to be like, how do we judge how people speak? But it's like, it's definitely possible,
Absolutely. And it's a combination of things too. We've got large group, we've got individual, but within that there's the public speaking aspect, but most of it is actually theater based
Yes.
here in Iowa, which is really unique and which makes us stand out.
Yeah, I remember there was a couple of my friends were on the speech team, and they went and they were like practicing one of their competition pieces or whatever, and it was like, this is actually really funny and probably like it might be a little over the top for some high school kids to be saying it, but that was what the appeal of some of it was. So it was kind of fun to be like, I can't believe they're letting you go out there and compete and say this, but it's also like, it was almost like a comedy routine of sorts. It's like, that was really kind of neat. They let them do that. So yeah, speech classes and
And it's so
speech
popular
competitions
right
are fun.
now. It like when I was in school, it wasn't such a thing. But now, man, and probably kudos to you for that. But I think also in the area in general, it's just really picked up a lot in the high schools,
Well,
from my perspective.
I've just always said Fort Dodge is a fine arts town. I mean, I grew up here.
Absolutely.
I left. I saw, a couple of other places in the United States, and I was brought back here because Fort Dodge is a fine arts town. Between all of its art and its music and its theater stuff that we have available here, it's amazing.
Because how many events on average do we have every month?
Oh, is it 60?
It's on average 60 events, yes, every month that are art and culture related. So
Yeah, and speaking of theater, we are in beautiful Phillips
Historic
Theater.
Phillips Auditorium.
Yes, and it's amazing. This place is really fun. We recorded one other episode here, so this is kind of the fun. Like we travel around town and just see what's out there.
We're busking kind of a little bit as we do.
Podcast. What kind of cool venues are there, and what kind of cool people can we meet?
Exactly. So I want to go back to each of you individually for a second and talk about your, not from birth, but your journey to becoming an educator in your respective area.
Well, like I said earlier, I've been teaching for 21 years, but I was, in the Cedar Valley for a long time teaching, and then I, went down to Des Moines, and then I got lucky and landed here and have loved every minute of it. And, we've talked about it being a fine arts community. That's what pulled me in, was that a chance to celebrate and bring my own children here to enjoy fine arts, because where I was at in school, it was not really a big deal, but it was in my heart. And so here I get to do it.
You had your art class and then you went home.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
well, and you're involved. You've gotten sucked into some things too since you've been
but
here.
Joyously.
Yes. Well, yeah. You
Pseudo-willingly.
genuinely come from a place of yes, which I always enjoy.
Yes.
But you are on the Fort Dodge Public Art Commission, and your daughter is really involved in our Youth Arts Council for Fort Dodge Fine Arts as well.
Nice.
So yeah, she's always on board to, last minute, I need your help. Okay.
I'm happy to do it. I love doing it.
Good. Well, we love having you here. Matt?
I originally grew up in Iowa City. I'm from the Iowa City area. And in high school, I was heavily involved in, all things music, especially choir, show choir and choir.
Did you go to City High?
I went to West High.
Oh.
I am a Trojan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But,
okay.
but, super strong program. And then from those experiences, I really kind of understood my passion and then pursued music in college. And, I guess from there, my story is not unique because so many coaches had been players or, choral directors had participated. So I was in choir. And then I went to Luther College. So I graduated from Luther College in 2010, studied music ed, and then really was just looking for a job. And Fort Dodge was that. And that's been 13 years ago. I haven't left.
And you came in as the assistant.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I don't know, how many years were you assistant before?
2.
Okay.
2. And then
Only 2. Gosh.
Yeah.
My timeline is really screwed up in my head.
It's crazy.
But you've also been involved in other outside of school community things.
Yeah.
You were,
In the past, I've been a little bit more involved with Stage Door before having kids, but now I have a daughter that has been in the last 2 Stage Door musicals. I've been involved with Choral Society, both as a singer and then, I guess, guest conductor. And continue to be involved at church and do a lot of stuff, through church. So
well, and I could be wrong, but Comedia too. Didn't you do a...
I've never done a
Okay.
Comedia show.
I was thinking, that was Joe Svensson.
Yep,
was
Joe
Into the
was in
Woods.
Into the
Okay.
Woods. I love to go to them.
Yeah.
It's just a hard time of year to
It is.
commit to being
It
at
can
those
be.
rehearsals. But
Yeah, because it's right during All-State music
Right.
rehearsals and all those things. And Matt's a piano player.
Oh, nice.
I was going to say, I don't know if he'll offer that, but I'm going to. Yep, he is. Okay, Lindey, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm Fort Dodge, born and raised, actually. So, but I left. I went to the University of Iowa to study theater there because I've been a performer since I was born. Literally, my mom said as soon as I could walk, I was dancing, that kind of thing. So, I went to Iowa, studied theater first, and didn't really know what I wanted to do career-wise. I just knew that I wanted to study this passion of mine. And I did some other things. I worked in human resources, and I worked in retail, and nothing just fit. And we moved around a bit. I lived in Texas. I lived in Minnesota. And you didn't know that?
No, I never knew.
Yeah.
What'd you do in Texas?
Nothing. We were there.
Nice.
Sorry, I got us off track.
It was, we were there for a very short time, and we just decided it was not what we wanted. So we moved back to the northern part of the Midwest. But yeah, so when we got back to Iowa, and when I say we, me and my husband, when we moved back to Iowa, I started coaching a high school speech team, actually just as a side gig, looking for a job. And I was just like, I can do this, like for a little bit of money anyway, and fell in love with the actual teaching part. I always knew I had this passion for theater and performance, but I didn't know that passing that passion on to other people would feel just as good. And so, then I went back and got my master's in education and started teaching. First, it was at Southeast Warren High School, which is just south of Indianola, a little small rural school. And then about 3 years in, I heard that Terry Coleman was retiring from Fort Dodge, which is my alma mater. So I said, well, let's see what happens. And here I am, 12 years later. So
that's really cool. Everybody here is like, well-traveled, it seems like. I need to step my game up.
We always come back to that, I think, somewhere in these episodes.
I don't know.
Like, I need to get out more.
I think I do, it's just there's so many fun people out here. I think hearing other people's stories, it's like, I do stuff, but I kind of like the stuff you guys were doing. Maybe I should have been doing that stuff instead,
That stuff's good too.
Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the reasons why I wanted to have the three of you just articulated in one way or another is that you have this drive and this passion for education and committing to your craft. And I think that's, there's a lot of people that teach but are just teaching to teach, as opposed to what these guys are describing. So I think that's really admirable and
it's not unlike
thankful for it.
It's not unlike any other job. How many people went to college, got their degree, and they're just like, I just do the thing because I got the degree in it, and I'm okay at it, I guess. And I mean, I can speak firsthand. I've given guitar lessons. It's not always an easy feat, So to teach full time in any capacity, anything, honestly, it's you should be proud that you're doing it. It should be something that you're very passionate about, and it's obvious you guys are.
Well, I think that comes across in our programs too. I mean, if you look at Fort Dodge Senior High and how much our arts programs have grown to capacity with the number of kids that are involved and whatnot. I mean, the art department, the music department, theater department, toot my own horn a little bit too. Yeah. But I mean, we've got kids who are going off to college, beyond college, living and breathing arts. And I don't know, without the foundation of the people who are passionate about it at their school, if that would happen. Who knows?
Right.
And I think one of the best things is that our students overlap. Like they're not just artists, they're not just theater, just music. They're all of those things, and they weave that in their whole being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like music and art students are always the busiest and always juggling the most, and are also the athletes and but that's what makes us so great.
Yeah, well, I think it's like wanting to hone your craft of expression. Like art is not necessarily something that I think it's something everyone can do, but if you work on it, you get better at it in whatever capacity you want to work on it. Whatever you're kind of working at, whether it's like a physical medium or if you're singing or like playing an instrument. But I think that's just a way for certain people to just express themselves, and other people have chosen different paths. And I think this is a way to work on it for the better, because it impacts every part of your life.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we all know that. Hope you guys know that now, too. This is episode 5. But before we stray from this too far, Lindey, talk about the different groups in the community that you've worked with outside of Fort Dodge Senior High.
I think I've pretty much worked with just about everybody. Having grown up in Fort Dodge, the Community Musical Players was a big factor in my life. I mean, I worked with Larry Mitchell, for a number of years. When I was in college, I came back, and Hawkeye Community Theater gave me my first directing gig as a student director. And so I enjoyed, I was like, oh, this is a fun aspect. I mean, performing I love too, but this is nice. I like, good at this. And I haven't really done anything with staged or other than
cabaret.
Other than the cabaret the one time, which I will say was so nerve-wracking because I hadn't been on stage in like 20 years. And Shelly was like, you want to come do this? And I was very, very nervous about it, but I was so glad I did, because that seemed to light a fire again.
Like, oh yeah, I can do this.
I can do, oh yes, I can practice and preach, right? I do know what I'm talking about, kids.
Matt was in my very first cabaret.
Yeah,
And I have
it
a
was-
picture of you and Ben being locked out of the Vincent house.
Because we had a concert.
Oh,
we had a
that's
senior
right.
high concert, and we were flying over there, and the door was locked, and we were like, "Let us in."
And the show had already started,
Yeah.
and it was the whole thing. So Ben, who we recorded last, who will be in the next episode, both had Lindey and Matt as educators.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really fun.
Senior high.
I think getting back to you guys were talking about, being passionate about
Yes.
our programs and that the kids are excelling. I think there's also, to a certain extent, you're driven by like the public nature of what we do, or kind of the performance, especially for us, but even in art, like, you know that people are going to view this product. It's not necessarily a behind closed doors where they're studying this and they take the test and they didn't do very well, but you don't ever have to talk about that. Like,
Right.
like we're putting on these performances. They're a part of this artistic craft. Like, I think we're all driven by, we want this to be good. We want you to feel good about what you're doing, but you, as a student, also there's kind of this internal drive of like, they want it to be good.
Right,
They want it to be their best
They have
work.
pride in what
Right.
they're working on,
And-
and you can't make them feel that.
Right.
They just-
right. Yeah.
they just do,
So I think
so that's
I think
nice.
there's, we need to say that too, that like it comes from them also, that
Oh,
they're
yeah.
passionate about, they want the product to be high level, and we just kind of are there to
Help facilitate that.
Right, right.
Yeah. Well, and even the students that I teach privately from Fort Dodge Senior High, they'd want more. They want more. They want more. They want the feedback, the good and the bad. They are really trying to grow, and I think that that's also something that, whether you're doing it or not, those students feel supported enough within their school in each of these areas to go out and share that with the community also, both in the visual and performing arts. And any one person is naive to think that they're the only one that can provide something of use to the students, right? Like, I
Yeah,
know all. Don't work with anything. You know what I mean? So I that's something that, as a community, that I see all the time with your students, and really appreciate that they are out there doing even more when they don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, I've told my students, I want you performing, and whether that's for Fort Dodge Senior High or for a community show, I don't care. Go perform. Go
Right.
as much as you can, as often as you can.
Yep. Be at my rehearsals, but go do.
But
go do other.
Yeah, please come to rehearsal. Yes, please. But yeah, be involved. And I mean, it's important for them to see how other directors work and how other programs work, and get different experiences.
I think I sat in on it. I don't know if it was a dress rehearsal or just during school. No, I think it was a dress rehearsal of the fall play. And one of your actresses was in the Comedia show and couldn't be there because they were double booked in in this other.
It was probably performance week for that one or something. Yeah.
And
just made it work.
Sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your students, visual arts, I mean, that mural that your students did on the side of the Blandon Art Education Center
so cool.
just made a huge impact. You've seen this, right?
I don't think so.
So what's that
You
bridge?
have to now.
I get my bridges mixed up. That's the Kenyon Road Bridge, right? That if you turn off of, like, you're going to the hospital. Yeah.
It's just down a few blocks from the Blandon.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't remember the cross street. Like I said, I'm terrible with streets here in Fort Dodge. But anyway, it's big and it's vibrant. And a lot of those students were also involved in a mural at Fort Frenzy last year. And
And also the mural at the
Nature Center.
Nature Center.
Yep. And those kids, they don't care if
And
it works
sets
for you to do
for musical
Well, and
and
we're gonna
fall play.
we're gonna talk about that for sure. But these kids are like, I don't care if nobody else can be there at this time. I can be, and I'm going to get some work done. And the ownership that they take over that is
And they pull
so
friends
appreciated.
in. Like, hey, we need some more help. We got a deadline. Hey, you can paint, pick up a paintbrush. I'll show you what to do. And so then it just kind of kept growing and growing and growing. And it was such an organic experience. It was not planned at all.
Right.
And I think my favorite memory from doing the Blandon art building mural was that when Saya, my daughter, was painting up on the scaffolding, she was painting the sun. And there was a gentleman that had walked by several different times. He'd watched us throughout the week. And he finally stopped and he says, and he had tears streaming down his face. Oh. And he says, I just got to let you know, and I'm going to get choked up telling about it, that my brother had passed away a few days ago. And I walked by and I saw you guys painting this bright, vibrant, happy mural. And it made me feel like I was going to be okay. Oh. And so he says, thank you, kids. I know, right? I think about it often and the students hearing that and people driving by often yelled out their window, beautiful, thank you for bringing brightness.
Yeah.
And so the students were like, okay, so this is why we do this. Like, yes.
It matters. It really does. And for them they get validated in that way.
Yes. And for that gentleman to stop and share that is important too, appreciate the work and let them know.
And you don't know what impact you're going to have, whether it's, visual or emotional.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our students were the part of it. I mean, they were it. They made that happen.
Well, and now they can't get enough. Now they're like, where can we paint next? How about here and here and here?
Yeah, there's plenty of walls in
there are, and I tell them that, but there's some red tape with some of that stuff. Apparently, you have to ask. But one of two of the things that the Youth Advisory Council is working on, we just have more visual art students involved this year, our free little library or free little art galleries that are going to be around town. And we're also looking at painting some of the huge electrical boxes.
Oh, yeah.
Downtown. So
definitely.
Yeah, just little pops of color here and there make a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely.
I love seeing those pick it up. Where they
trash
insert
cans.
The picture and that's so neat.
Yeah, and that you can still read the student's name and how old they were.
And they're all different, but they're all, that somebody took the time to do that. And
I believe that was also a partnership with Fort Dodge Senior High. The welding department helped with constructing all of those.
Just a little plug, that was my son, Foster, who made those.
Oh, thank you, Foster.
Thank you, Foster.
Yeah, I love seeing them.
Every time we drive by, he's like, I did that. I did that.
I love that, though.
I know, but you're proud of your work. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I really want to talk about the musical and fall play collaboration because I think the way you guys work together to achieve what you do is really amazing. But before we get into that, and I didn't plan to ask you this, so hopefully you aren't like, But so we have other people on your team that are not here today, represented today, because we can't have a table of 12 people, ideally, for a podcast.
We shouldn't. I hope not.
Right, exactly. That seems like 3 podcasts. But anyway, so you have an assistant director.
Yep, Kim Wonkum.
And she teaches...
she has 2 treble clef choirs.
Okay.
One of them's our entry-level treble clef course is called Cantabile. And then there's kind of a 10th through 12th grade treble clef voices called Voce Lyrica.
Okay.
So she works with those 2 ensembles.
And then does she do lessons with her students?
She does lessons during the day.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I meant, during the school day.
Yep. Yeah.
And you have another art teacher.
Yeah, Sam Hendrickson.
Yeah.
This is her 2nd year with us.
I just met her via email last week. We are meeting soon.
She's fabulous.
I'm excited.
She's got the 3D ceramics and photography and graphic design classes along with the art studio classes because we both teach those foundations.
Okay. Yeah, she reached out, and this was the first time I'd heard from her. And she introduced herself, and she said, I want to get my kids in the community. I want to get my photography students in the community. Tell me where to go. So I love that person right off the bat.
Came to the right person just to ask about that kind of stuff.
Great. I can just happen to help you with that.
I can't tell you how many, it seems about once or twice a month. I'm just like, okay, so this is Shelly Bodorf. Just look her up on Facebook. Fort Dodge Fine Arts. Just walk in there.
The doer of everything.
Yes. She'll tell you all the.
Master of all.
I will
Yes.
head you in some direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I'll point you to the person who can point you to the right person.
That's my title. I like that. Okay, so, and then obviously the instrumental program as well. Al
Right,
Paulson,
yep.
he's been there for a long time, right?
The same year that no, a year after.
A year after I.
A year after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought he had been there longer than
Yeah,
that.
which is the same. Hey, Kim came the same year as Al did.
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Paulson and Kim Wonkum came the same.
same year. Okay.
With the orchestra teacher and I came the same year.
Yes.
So Brian.
Brian Robeson, who's
Yep.
the orchestra
Yep.
teacher, all things string.
All things.
And he's at the middle school also, right?
Yes, he does 6/12
Okay.
strings.
Okay. Hoofda.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
God
Just
bless
in
him.
right there. And then who else is involved in that program? Laura
Yeah,
Ferry.
yep. Laura Klein Ferry
Mm-hmm.
is one of the instrumental directors at the middle school. Like,
Okay. I was
she
thinking she did
starts in 5th grade.
Okay.
The non-string, the band students.
Okay.
And then Tara Smith does
Right.
6/8.
Well, and we could take this through every school. I mean, we have a ton. And then, of course, welding and things like that, as far as some of those special projects. Am I leaving anybody out in high school?
Emily Eastwood, for sure. I think dance is a
Yes.
big creative art at
For sure. The dance team
Yeah.
kicks butt
Yes.
at Fort Dodge Senior High.
Yep.
Those kids are dedicated and put a lot of hours.
and I'm just trying to think of like
Well,
creative.
Laura also does the color guard
Right.
Okay.
for the
Right.
for that part. I can't think of.
I think that should be all of them. If not, you can email me and yell at me later. We're doing it. This was off the cuff right here. Or we'll have an insert edited in. Where it doesn't.
Just chop it in here. Just move your mouth and I'll just overdub it.
And I'll be somewhere else in town
Watermelon. Just do watermelon.
getting gas. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
By the way, it's a vertical video. Oh, man.
It won't be on TikTok.
Oh,
But anyway,
bad.
Today's the day.
No, they cut it off at like 10 o'clock last
by the
night.
time this is up, it'll probably be. Oh, God. We'll see. Anywho.
We'll see.
So one of the projects that I wanted to make sure we touch on, and we can veer off, from this however we need to, but from my perspective, the musical is really where the three of you collaborate the most. Would that be?
That's
So
fair.
talk a little bit about that process between the three of you. Talk about your specific role in the chunks of pieces to make this happen, and how many students are involved with each of all the nitty gritty.
I'll let you start, Matt.
So Lindy and I sit down. I mean, the last couple, it's been over the summer.
Yeah.
We've kind of been trading ideas, but usually for sure by September, we're talking pretty extensively about, we have to pick a show, we have to apply for the rights.
And this spring, what's the number, the years?
This is the 98th
98th.
annual. The 98th annual. Yep.
Isn't that crazy?
And
That
so
is
once we've selected a show and gone through board approval and gotten the performance rights, then we get into casting, doing the auditions, casting it. We always get materials for the pit orchestra, so I work with Brian, kind of, organizing or arranging who's going to play which book and how that's all going to look, and then Lindy and I do the casting and set
for
the
Pitt,
rehearsal
you
schedule
have a collaboration of students and professionals or adults in the area.
Yeah, we always try to. Our goal is to get as many kids, as many students in the building that either A, want to do it, or could cover that book with what instruments they play.
Yep.
We always want that first.
Yes.
But from there, then, we tend to ask adults either if we have a need, like we have to cover that part, or even there's been cases where a student will play, but they don't really feel comfortable. They'll only play if somebody else covers their book. And,
Yeah.
and so then, like
can vary.
we've had Amanda do that. I've had Amanda come play violin.
Warren,
and she has
Amanda Warren.
she has the understanding that, I'm here and you're going to hear me, but really I'm doing it because I'm supporting the student that just wanted to have somebody else playing their book. And,
Right.
Yeah.
So. Okay, so pit selection goes into casting. Have you gotten any information at this point in the process about set? Okay.
We've just kind of
You'll come in a little bit
later. We lightly touch base, but I'm just kind of formulating yet.
Yeah.
What students will be available because it's coming.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're coming
same.
up.
I'm still sort of formulating. So.
Well, yeah,
It's all a process, right? So after we pick the show, then I start conceptualizing sort of the visual, like what do I think the set might look like, and then how do I, as the more of the theatrical side of things, the director side of things, how do I see the story playing out on stage? And so then we start thinking about, well, in this particular show, we're doing Anastasia this spring, and there's so many different locations in this particular show. So you have to think about, do we have a ton of little things that we move on and off, or do we try to do something like that's stationary and then just fill in? Or, there's lots of different creative ways you can go about doing that. So
Am I going to have projections?
Projections,
That part of it too?
yes, the
Yep.
technological side of things. So, we start to like spitball some ideas in regards to that. And I found the magic of Chat GPT imaging this year, which was kind of fun. I just said,
GPT.
I know,
It's
don't tell my students.
No.
But I was like, I just said, this is kind of what I'm looking for, but I'm not an artist like Deidra is. I can sketch, but it's not to scale. It's
for your own.
It's for my own.
But amazingly, I relate well to what she does because when I'm conceptualizing, it's all kind of, I don't really know. And then we just kind of bounce back naturally with each other. So your concepts work with my concepts. And then
perfect. That's why it works. Well, and that's just it. It was a couple years ago that I needed to, I was asking for an assistant theater director for the fall play because I was doing everything on my own, and the program's gotten bigger and I got a lot of kids involved, and I don't want to burn out. So I just asked for some help, and that's where Deidra came in, and I said, well, you're an artist, you're visual, and so let's just divide and conquer this. And it just worked out. And then she just said, hey, what can I help with musical? And I was like, awesome.
Yes.
So we just ran with that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're just about to do casting, and we're just kind of kicking around the visual ideas. Yeah.
I'm just over here smiling because it's so funny sitting here. You can just see how it plays out, like this idea of you see things through your own lens. And for all three of us, like, we can see a show and I hear the music, but that's not like she's looking at the staging and looking at, oh, look how they brought that set piece on. And I'm like, what kind of instruments do they have in the pit? And like, is that a bass or are they playing that through a keyboard? You
right.
know, like,
and voice parts, the range.
And so she's thinking about like what kind of set pieces, but Deidra's like, well, how can we make that look like, Gothic stone or whatever? Like how did they do that? You know, and it's just like, it takes all those minds to create that product. But then I also think about like our audience, every brain is different. So what are those people seeing and hearing? I spend all my energy on this, but like,
what are they walking out?
Like, is every person
their head?
listening with that kind of intent or the ear that I listen with? Like, probably not.
Right.
know? So sometimes you gotta rest in the fact that like we are a creative team, and somebody is going to pay attention to all those details, but it's not always going to be yours.
Right.
And
like, I got this covered. I got that.
right.
Yeah,
just,
for sure.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking like, she's talking about that and she's talking about that. And like, that's not what I.
But I mean, the fun thing is like the Venn diagrams all overlap a little bit, and then in the center is the actual thing that you guys are all working on together. Yeah. It's really kind of fun how that works out though. Like, because you said like some of the things you're conceptualizing is also kind of what you're thinking, and then you combine it, and it's like this is where we're meeting in the middle. And if you all do that together, then boom, you got a product.
Right. And I'm looking at it too, like, okay, once the actors get on stage, then like, what does the stage look like that way, and how do I place them and move them so there's interesting movement and interesting stage picture characters, and then how do I get them to emote and pull out things that they might not
Right.
have experienced in their life, but they have
Right.
to create that emotion on stage and the relationships and things like that they have with each other. And so, yeah, I mean,
Effective storytelling.
effective storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so even when we're doing auditions I was just playing off of what you just said, he's, I'm sure, listening to like their tone and their range and all those things. And I can appreciate those things for sure. But I'm also like, okay, do I believe you?
Right.
Or like, is there chemistry here between these two people auditioning right now? Or do I need to see you with someone else? And that kind of thing. So it's nice that we have that to play off of each other too in the
for
audition
sure.
process. Because then I feel like we really do get the right people.
Right.
And then you get to add the tech component to it with the lighting, along with the set,
And the costuming.
and the costume. Oh yeah,
Going back to what Lindey said, again, we just are different brains and different kind of creative artists. She's talking about, okay, so if the ensemble's on stage, where am I going to place them levels to make it look believable? And I'm like, if the ensemble's on stage, they're all singing. So are they singing in harmony? And who's singing what part? And they're not singing
And
the
why
right
are
words.
the tenors so
and,
loud or whatever?
yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
but that's important. How do you get students to help with set? What's that process like?
It's always different each time.
'Cause they don't have
they're-
auditions.
Well, they have a list. They sign up.
Okay.
But naturally what ends up happening is I've got those base that signed up, but I end up pulling from my own classes. I see a skill in somebody and I need that skill on stage, and I say, I need you.
Yeah.
So I need you to come at this time, and I want to show you something.
Specifically for this, it's usually they do their work outside of, they're not painting on the stage while we're rehearsing.
Right.
And so
Right.
for
Maybe at
those
the
kids to
end.
be dedicated, they
We're doing some little touch-ups
The last
and
minute.
waiting the last minute and fixing things.
we need crown
But yeah,
molding.
you're right. I mean, you all have your allotted
Right.
times.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially the first half of
Last year
rehearsal.
we worked over spring break.
Yeah.
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 And,
Or,
and,
You got to. You have to do what you got to do to get it done.
and the kids show up. to
Oh,
do
they
it.
love it.
And that's really what's awesome about this whole process is once they're in,
They're in.
they're in. They're so like this experience is so amazing and so much fun, and it's going to be something they carry with them for the rest of their life. And whether or not they go into performance, they're part of this legacy that is now the Fort Dodge annual high school musical. I mean, like
Right.
we said, 98th. It's been an institution, so they're now part of that, and they relish that being part of that.
And the word's out. I mean, the kids come to me, hey, so you're working on the set for the musical. Like, yeah. Can I come help? Yeah,
Yes.
I'm like, sure.
Yes.
Come on in. So it just kind of keeps
Do you ever
growing.
say no?
No. Everybody, because you don't always know what their skill is. They don't even know, and then they find out that maybe they're really good at all the fine little details, or maybe they're good at the big spaces.
Right.
Everybody is needed, and everybody finds their own thing that they're good at.
If you ever need a really good clown head drawn, I have a very specific niche
Yeah.
when it comes to visual arts.
Yeah,
but
me
I can
too.
draw a really good clown.
Yeah, it's like
There's
basically
a story in there.
the house with the curly Q smoke.
Yeah.
The transparent cube. I mean, I got a couple I can bust out too. if you really need to.
Cube. Oh yeah.
That S that we also
Oh, yeah.
draw on our books in high school.
You're dating us here. Look out.
Oh yes.
What are you gonna do for the 100th? Let's just pop it out right now. Tell the world.
We don't know.
No, we don't know. We have
But-
bantered around a lot of
Yeah.
different ideas.
What they mean is they've been deeply planning this for years, and they have a bunch of really good ideas, but they can't tell anybody yet.
But you know what's interesting about that question is going back to what Lindey was saying, like that they're a part of this legacy. And I think I certainly don't have the notion that I'm any different. Like I remember performances that I was in high school
Yeah.
and in college, they stick with you. And we know that about the high school students that we get to work with. That's the joy and the beauty of, it doesn't matter what note they sang, or maybe they're not going to remember specific details, but they'll never forget that they were in these things. They'll never forget, that time on stage.
Yeah,
And that That doesn't necessarily weigh heavily. Like I walk around feeling that weight, but it's there. I feel like you want to create experiences to facilitate experiences that are going to create those memories and fulfill that need in their life, in their development.
Definitely. I mean, I was that student.
And so
in high
I think-
school and I cried at the end of every production always. And it wasn't like I wasn't going to see these people the next day at
Right.
school, but it's just, it just was like,
It's a
you
bonding.
just give so much and you're used to
Yeah.
hanging out with them an extra 20 hours a week or whatever it ends up, being, I don't know, or 40. I mean, I don't know.
Sometimes it
But
feels
it is bonding, and you're right, Matt. I mean, that it sticks with you. The good moments, the challenging moments, all of those.
Yeah, even if it's somebody just like helping paint set and they're like not actually involved.
Oh, we
like,
have that all the
right on
time.
stage. Like they're just like, oh man, I miss coming in at like 6 o'clock and painting until 9, and
Right.
then,
Or
like
10
whatever.
or
it was.
11.
Well, I have some students that are alums that are on speed dial sometimes.
Nice.
And hey, this doesn't feel right without you here. You want to pop on over and come help us, and then they bring some friends.
Yeah.
and-
Yes, for the fall play
For the
this
fall play.
year, I was very surprised. Here in comes just a recent graduate, and was like, you know what, I needed to do this. Like, I mean, I just needed,
And it was cathartic for
It was-
them.
yeah, it was just such a part of their happy high school memories. They just didn't. They still wanted to be involved, and
Yes.
of course, yes,
And there was
Yes.
several,
yes.
and I have a feeling that I'm sure musical won't be much
So
different.
It won't
that's
be.
so cool.
That fall set looked like, when I first walked in, I thought it was just wallpaper.
I was just going to say the exact same
it was
thing.
so
I had no idea.
eye-catching that the walls, and I just sat and stared at it for a long time, and then you came up and you were like, yeah, but right there, if you look real then
There's a couple.
just like, then I couldn't unsee that.
I saw it. I saw it for 2 days ahead of time
before.
before I even knew. It was wallpaper in my mind. I wasn't really paying attention.
It was really
and then I
pretty
saw them
too. It was cool.
painting. There was one section that wasn't painted, and I just figured, they haven't hung
They ran out of
wallpaper
paper.
there, right, or whatever. And then they were painting it, and I was like, the rest of it is hand painted.
Yeah.
Like, it was that intricate. It was amazing.
They should have been really, really proud of
Oh
that.
gosh! When I came in and it was all done, I was just like, "This is exactly what I was thinking." I was just so excited.
Okay, so they cried too. Students are crying. They're crying.
I mean, and then literally, I just, that was the kind of thing where I was like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. It's a 1950s. It's an office. We started kind of like, okay, what were the color schemes? What were some of the like patterns or trends or whatever of the time? And of course, being at the senior high, we also still have a lot of the same furniture that they did in the 50s.
even some bathroom tiles we
Stage
went and
furniture.
modeled.
Stage
Nope.
furniture.
Now it is.
Those file cabinets are in my classroom. I'm telling you right now. Those old metal, tall.
Yep.
Anyway, but yeah, so that collaboration is so awesome. And then she's just like, I got it. And then I go in there and it's done.
I just took some screenshots and sent it off to students, and I said, here's the vision. What can you do with this? And then I was busy and had meetings and came back, periodically checking the progress, and then voila.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even the
it was so
details,
cool.
like
It was-
the light switches, like I was like, well, in the 50s, I'm guessing they probably wouldn't have the flip ones. They had the push button ones.
2 buttons.
And so that's
Yeah.
exactly, what they painted.
And
on
it was
there.
a 2-prong and not a 3-prong.
Yep.
Oh, yeah,
Those
outlets.
details of those outlets. Yeah. I mean,
And
I don't think
Saya.
anybody else would maybe recognize these things, but
Yeah.
we knew, and it was important to us to be authentic. So
And then of course Saya, she's detail oriented and she's a doer. Mm-hmm. And so we're going through notes on stage after a good rehearsal, and Saya's like, oh my gosh, that needs a drop shadow. And so not even paying attention to what anybody's doing, just go get her paint and then
love it.
Adds a little. There would be a shadow there.
there needs to be a shadow.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to throw 2 things out at you. They don't have to be related, but I want you to be thinking about them. The biggest challenge, whether it's in your area related to the musical or just in general in your department, and then also, what kind of support do you need for anything in your department as well? Does that make sense? So we can start with either one, or if you'd like to get both out of the way.
Take some thought.
Yeah,
I know.
so you're basically looking for like biggest challenges overcome and what would have helped you overcome those challenges
They,
easier.
no, they don't have to necessarily. I mean, sometimes there's just a challenge that you know that this is always going to be the thing. But on the other side of that, let's say, and this isn't it, but let's say we want more people to attend our musical. You know, I mean, yes, they could go they might go hand in hand, but they don't necessarily have to. Like maybe supplies is something, you know, that you need, or maybe you need more volunteers, or maybe you need more. I don't know. I want to hear from you. So.
I think for me, it's always just time is my biggest challenge.
Amen.
Spread in multiple directions, and you want to give it your all the time. Yep. So I have learned how to delegate. I wasn't good at that, but also I think that I finally, this is what, the third year? Yeah, so I finally have kind of a foundation of what I want it to look like for my students.
Musical.
For
This
the
is musical. Okay.
For the musical, and so I have a foundation of students that I know that I can count on and can delegate more projects to, and I don't have to be the one deeply in it. And I think the fall play helped procure that because I wasn't physically participating as much. I was more being able to be off stage and watching the process, and so that has really helped. But time is always time is difficult.
Right.
Time is difficult.
Let's stick with that then, the challenge.
Yeah, that I would concur with that. Is the way that I look at my coaching, I feel like I almost treat it like a full-time job. And so when I'm trying to do that and this actual full-time job that I have at the same time, it's a lot. It is mentally and physically draining. You know, we wouldn't do it if we didn't love doing it. I mean, I think that's just the bottom line. But yeah, I mean, it's just time. I just wish there was more time in the day, or that, like, you know, if I worked in a different school district in a different state where like they would pay their theater director just to do theater direction, right?
Right.
Like that would be amazing, but that's just not the reality that I currently work in. So,
And for the most part in Iowa.
in general, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for me. I'm going to totally agree. It's just that time to dedicate to what we want, but also like look at what we put out, and that's something to be proud of. Like even with the time constraints.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
I think musical specifically, I think along the time narrative, but really what people don't necessarily understand outside, we get it, and I think a lot of the parents get it, is that Fort Dodge, and specifically Fort Dodge Senior High, has a big enough student body to offer everything, but doesn't have a big enough student body to really like fill every roster of everything that we do.
Sure. That you provide.
Especially with individual with unique kids. It's all the same kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's so many of the varsity athletes are also in the musical. They're also in speech. They're also in, they're varsity cheerleaders. They're in Dodger Senate. They're involved in so many things at school that to have rehearsals and to get them there, there's always give and take, and there's always overlap of, well, I need to be at dance rehearsal because I'm also on the dance team, or whatever.
Right.
There's an understanding we have to be able to, to make everything work because they're involved in so many different things. And so that's a challenge, just getting them all there and getting them to not necessarily want to know what's going on, but just to know what's going on.
Right.
I haven't been able to be at the last 3 rehearsals.
Right.
So.
Right.
And what a testament to students.
I was just thinking that as you said that. I was just thinking that as
I mean,
talking.
what a great foundation for when they become adults.
To have to learn to juggle and communicate. That's that's one of the biggest things too. If you're in
and advocate for themselves too. That's huge.
Yeah, but that communication factor. I mean, that's something as adults that we can always strive to work on too.
For sure.
Committing and yes, and then but I forgot to tell you.
Also sticking to your convictions, like you said. It's if this is something they want to do and they want to do both of them, then maybe something's more important to them, and you just have to be understanding and be like, well, I'm still glad you're on our team though.
Right,
And
right, yeah.
And that's
Right.
the thing, is like you're just fostering their growth even more, and it's just making them like, those are the people that grow up and donate their time to like civic duties and things like that. Those are the people that even when they have a 40-hour-a-week job, they're still looking to give more time to something else. And why wouldn't you want to make those people? Why wouldn't you want to help create those people?
Exactly.
It's such a great thing that it's a double-edged sword. They're so busy. There's not quite enough because everybody's so busy and crossing all, but it's still such a great thing that they're all that busy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting and I know that about Fort Dodge Senior High, but to hear you guys say it and talk about it, I grew up in Webster City, so my class size was 120 or 129 or something like that. And so I consider that a much smaller school. So yes, of course we were in everything because we had to be. I mean, I enjoyed it, but we had to be. I did not enjoy basketball, believe it or not. But anyway, so to hear a school the size of Senior High has those same problems or challenges.
Yeah.
That's interesting to be reminded. And then what can we as the community do for you? What do you need? I know, Lindey, every year when speech comes around, it's blasted that we need help running contest speech when you host here in Fort Dodge.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get your brains.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we don't host every year, but we are hosting this year district individual speech, which is March 1st. And it takes, I think we calculated 100 to 150 volunteers to make that happen. And that's a district.
Yeah.
So if we were to have a state, it would triple that, so there's a lot of people involved in that process. And I do employ the kids too. They're there all day.
Voluntold.
Yes, yes, exactly. I guess, but look what you can learn from this experience, right? Like you can sit in this room and watch all these performances, and you can observe and gain knowledge. Anyway, so
be there.
Come hell or high water. Yeah. No, but yeah. So I mean, absolutely. Like if you have time to volunteer, be willing to volunteer for a day or a half a day. That's always something we can use. And financial donations are always nice because we don't do fundraisers. I'm not real interested in selling candles and pizza.
Right.
All right. I'd rather sell you a ticket to a show. Right. So, but there's still that financial cost of putting on a performance that is a reality. So, I have a speech and drama boosters club parent group, and they, you can donate financially to them through a sponsorship. And then really oddly, something that I need
Great.
is storage, I don't know what you
tubs.
Tubs, yes,
Totes,
clear
the
totes, clear tubs.
Strips?
No, so we're very blessed. We have a lot of costumes and hats and shoes and props and things all in storage, and I've been now there for 12 years thinking I need to do inventory. We need to do inventory, but yet it is very difficult to do inventory when you have nothing to store these things and items in.
Yeah.
They're just all sort of out in the open, and if you don't use them, they're collecting dust and then bugs.
It's hard to find them.
Hard to find and locate them when you need things, and constantly having people come and ask me, can we borrow this? Can we borrow that? I'm like, if you can find it.
Yeah.
You know? So that's very strange request, but yeah.
And multiple sizes.
Yeah.
Big,
Oh,
small.
yeah. That's a doable ask, though.
Right. Well, we got a ton of garment bags 2 years ago.
Okay.
And a ton. And so that's been sort of our first attack on this is okay, we're putting all of these suit jackets that are the same color and the same size in this one garment bag, and then we're calling it bagging and tagging right now is kind of what we're doing, just to say that's what's in here. And then
Or if you're an obsessive organizer, I'm sure they would.
please
Let you help
anyone
people.
listening out there, yes, if you are of the home edit crew, the Clio and those ladies, you know who I'm talking about.
What about for you guys?
I would say I'm going to go sappy. I think, monetarily, I think we're in a good spot, but I just think if you have a student that's involved in music, and even if you don't, if you have a grandchild or if you're just a community member, just encourage them. Encourage them, tell them what a great thing it is that they're in this music ensemble, they're in band, they're in choir. Encourage them to think about doing it after high school. You're in it now, and would you consider being in choir in college? Are you going to sing, or are you going to be in a community, like a Comedia show? Just continue to support them and to encourage them in that area. Because it's right. Because we know that it's deeply important for their formative, who they're becoming, and it's a part of who they're going to be.
Right.
So encouraging them to find that out and to have those experiences, I think that's what I would ask.
I never say no to supplies. So anything and everything, it gets used.
Yeah.
So, brushes or rollers or
how about things,
sponges,
what would be
paints.
some things you wouldn't want? Because when you say supplies,
I think.
do you want old gallons of crusty paint?
No.
People have had sitting in their
fresh,
basement. Okay.
Fresh.
I mean, sometimes that's what people...
But sometimes I can utilize, if you've got that craft paint that's still usable. Mm-hmm. So we'd gotten some that was donated.
Revive it.
Yeah, we can revive it. So, but we do a lot of painting, and we go through a lot of paint. So my dream would to be have a cart that I could wheel around on stage.
I mean, I feel like we can make a cart happen.
Yeah. Somebody out there, you got an extra cart?
Somebody out
lying
there.
A cart.
We're looking for a cart.
We're not talking shopping cart either.
No.
No, like
Get
a
one
utility.
says Fairway.
You're right.
You're right. Oh, no, they might already have that one. Okay.
No.
Yeah,
So-
like with the projection carts, I
Right,
think of.
right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right,
Like-
something I can, stack supplies on and wheel it around on stage pretty easily and then wheel it off.
Where, and probably all the wheels work.
Yes, that would
Like that would be a
beneficial.
nice touch also.
So, and if you have 2 carts, I won't say no. So
Okay, we actually need 2 carts.
those
the
are
art
those are my
department.
dream things that I had used it on a mural that somebody had in their facility for us, and I thought, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this just made life so much more efficient.
Right.
It did not take us as long.
Right.
To do
And
this
you're
because
not
I could
on the
hunching
floor.
over and the body is shifting and
The things.
the things that are happening as you
Well, I think
more of these.
I'm happy that we were able to, the stars were able to align and we could find this time to do this together because, I mean, you and I, we're generally able to find something that can schedule
Yeah, usually
pretty easily.
A couple nights a week, we could find something if we had to.
Right. But to get all 5 of us is quite, I mean, we've been trying to do this for 2 months, I think now. So thank you for making this happen. I've been really fortunate in these first few episodes to, be able to call my friends and say, hey, I have an idea. And thank you I always preface it with, and I really hope you'll say yes. And then I say the idea.
I haven't said
So in
no
other
yet.
words, she guilt trips us.
Thank you for that talent, Mom. Fine, whatever works. But I appreciate what you guys do for your students and what you do for the community and the positive and life skills that your students are learning. We see it in public and we hear these students and what they're trying to do and appreciate you guys for spearheading that.
Well, thank you.
And the people that aren't here too also. What'd you say?
I said, yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate Fort Dodge Fine Arts as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You guys are.
It's amazing how much it's grown too, just from what it was to.
It's been a wild ride. I've been involved about 10 years and it's just when I start making a list, like when we do our patron letter every year, and I look back at all the things that we include in there, it's like, holy shit. No wonder I'm tired.
Yeah, it's wild. I think it's crazy because sometimes that's the stuff where you don't realize how much you're actually doing until you do like a recap or like until you're like, look at this catalog of stuff I've amassed. I can't believe I've actually been doing all this stuff. It just feels like every day is just blowing by. And
Right.
all of a sudden you're like,
Well, yeah, because you're in it, right?
Yeah, well,
but it's not. It's the people like you and the yous that make being able to facilitate those things a lot more manageable. So it's a good partnership. It's a good thing for the community, Peter.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't say it wasn't.
There we. Well, you gave me those eyes. Like what?
I'm trying.
Do you have that?
No,
I don't know.
I'm trying to be good here. Come on, what are we doing?
Okay. We're wrapping up.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think we could go on and on and on, but I think we hit some good talking points today. And of course, there will be information both on the school website and social media, and also on Fort Dodge Fine Arts when tickets are available for the musical. And of course, concerts coming up.
What are the dates for the musical?
April 24th through the 26th.
Yep.
Okay.
April 24th through April 26th.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, check out the social medias for more. Also, wherever you're at, just hit subscribe, like, comment. Let us know you listen to this. Share the episode. Word of mouth, whatever you feel is the best way to let people know. If you know either of our 3 guests, send it to every person you know that knows them and say, listen to this episode. We'll be sharing it around social media. So thank you guys very much for listening. I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing and listening along with us.
Yeah. All right. Shine on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.